This is hour number 2 of the Doug Stewart Show, baby. Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah. Hour number 2. Thank you for joining you, folk. Really do appreciate it. The number to the show is 404-382-0338. You can also email me at doug@thedougstewartshow.com. And we're going to get into some entertainment, some birthdays here in a minute. This is a Throwback Thursday, January 26, 2017. Talking about these little sports stories out here, man. Venus and Serena make it to the finals to face each other in the Australian Open. Shouts out to them. Our president, and I even hate to even say our president, but the president of the United States is delusional. And then there's this, man. A little Super Bowl talk. As I said, every day I'm going to give you a little bit of Super Bowl talk. That really is kind of like a down period between, this week and I'd say Tuesday and next week, where things really get going hot and heavy in the media and talking about the big game coming up on next week, Sunday. But I found a little story, man, that I thought was interesting from a guy named Chris Chase, who writes for the USA Today. And the headline to this thing, as well as Fox Sports, or I think he writes for Fox Sports now, used to write for USA Today. He says, how the New England Patriots became the most hated team in sports. That's the headline to this thing. And he starts off by saying 14 playoff appearances in 16 years, 4 Super Bowl wins, 6 Super Bowl appearances, 11 AFC championship games, and a few inches from completing an undefeated season. That, in most people's eyes, would have made the New England Patriots one of the greatest teams in sports histories. And yet, there's something missing from the Pats dynasty, something that's been a part of every dynasty in the past: the fans. The New England Patriots are the first sports dynasty hasn't developed a national fan base. Yeah. Nationally, the Pats, Mr. Chase goes on to say, are almost exclusively hated and rarely loved, unheard of a great team in the country that loves to root for a winner. Stop right there. And we talked about this on yesterday. And I've said this. Today is Thursday, so yesterday was Wednesday. I've been saying this since Monday, since we figured out that the Falcons and the Patriots are playing in the Super Bowl. That outside of people in the New England area, I'm giving you the New England area, okay? Outside of people in the New England area, not just Boston, not just Massachusetts or whatever. Outside of people in the New England area, everybody else in America should be rooting for the Atlanta Falcons in this Super Bowl. And you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. Mr. Chase goes on to say the Steelers and Cowboys of the 70s plus the 49ers of the 80s built national fan bases that remain today. And that's exactly right. Like, out of this game here, I think that the Falcons have an incredible opportunity to, build upon a national fan base. And the only people that are Atlanta Falcons fans, just like the Patriots, are people from Atlanta. And that's for a lot of reasons, but, not really that big of a brand, haven't had a lot of success. They're kind of a newer franchise, been around since the late 60s. And so nobody, roots for Atlanta Falcons outside of people born and raised from Atlanta. Nobody does that. Even people from North Carolina and South Carolina and Florida, because of geography, you would think that there's a lot of people from those states in the South that would root for the Falcons. Nobody from South Carolina roots for the damn Atlanta Falcons that I know. That's just the truth. So the Falcons have a real opportunity here with being the team, playing the team that nobody likes, to get a national fan base and to get people interested in the Atlanta Falcons. He asked the question, what's kept New England's fan base largely within a 100-mile radius of Boston, or those who once lived within a 100-mile radius of Boston? He says there are a couple reasons. Number 4, the fourth reason, he gives 4 reasons. The fourth reason in his order, and you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show, says jealousy and envy. And now listen, there's a theme to this, and I'll wrap it all up and tie it together when we get to the end. But his fourth reason on why the Patriots don't have a national fan base after all the success that they've had is he says, call it resentment of greatness. Once the Pats started to be taken seriously and put up an insane 16-0 season, the bandwagon time had passed. You'd already made up your mind that you didn't like them, and so the only way to react was to root against them vigorously. Okay? So that's his first reason that he gives, his actual fourth reason in order. The third reason he says is they're just really, really unlikable. Well, that's true. I agree with him on that. I agree with him on this one. This is number 3 on his list. He goes on to say Bill Belichick acts like a jerk, treats the press like a bunch of 3-year-olds, dresses like a slob, and makes no effort to be likable because he's there to win football games, not care about what you think about him. Tom Brady pulled a Brad Pitt on his pregnant actress girlfriend and upgraded to a supermodel. He tries to act too cool for the room until you see him in magazines holding goats, promoting Uggs, and paying somebody to give him a personality on a Facebook page. Brady desperately cares what you think about him, even more so after he was fingered as a cheat. He mentions the whole cheating thing right there. The second reason he gives is because of fantasy football. Basically, he says back when the Cowboys and the Steelers became well-known and liked all over the country, fans paid attention to teams and not to individual players like we do today in fantasy sports. That's the second reason. And the number one reason he gives is simply put because it's different eras. That's right. It's different eras. When the Cowboys and Steelers came to power, it was a different time. Monday Night Football was new. In-market home games were just starting to be aired on television. And football was exploding to a new audience. There were 4 or 5 channels on your TV. And given that the Dallases and the Pittsburghs were the 2 best teams, they were on more than anyone else. In the 80s, the 49ers temporarily became America's team thanks to the consistent greatness and movie star looks and all-American image of Montana. And so that's the reason why he's saying that those teams became prominent, which makes a little bit of sense to a degree. So, you know, as I always talk about and how I became a Lakers fan, is the same reasons that he talked about in his number one reason. The era was different. When I grew up, and I just mentioned South Carolina people as well. When I grew up, and people in South Carolina and people in North Carolina, you know, there wasn't ESPN. There wasn't all these different networks where everybody got a little bit of love on national TV. You had CBS, you had NBC, you had ABC, and that was it. Okay, so there are 32 teams at that time, maybe 28 teams, I think it was. So there are 28 teams, and the networks are just going to show the best teams so they can get ratings numbers. I mean, that's easy. So the teams that we saw on TV in football were the Dallas Cowboys, they were the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were the dominant teams. Thus, in South Carolina, you got a bunch of Cowboy fans and Steeler fans, and you saw the Redskins every once in a while, and you saw the Philadelphia Eagles. That was it. Like in 1978, 1980, we didn't see the Seattle Seahawks on TV. We never saw the Seattle Seahawks play a football game back in 1980 or 1978. We didn't see that. We didn't see the freaking Houston Oilers play on TV. Rarely. And I mean rarely. And you started to see those teams, from what I remember, you started to see those teams, once again, like the author says, the writer says, on Monday Night Football. Then you started to see, you know, when they played the games outside of the normal schedule on Sunday, you started to see Houston, you know, Oilers every once in a while. Or you started to see the Seattle Seahawks every once in a while. Or you started to see the St. Louis Cardinals every once in a while before they went to Arizona. But back then, you saw the Cowboys and the Steelers for the most part. CBS was the NFC. And NBC was the or was it ABC? ABC was the AFC. So all of the AFC games were on ABC. All of the NFC games were on CBS. And so you saw Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins pretty much every week. And in the AFC, you probably saw, from what I'm trying to remember, you saw the Dolphins. You saw, because obviously the 72 team, you saw the Dolphins. Every once in a while, you see the Denver Broncos because they were great. The Orange Crush defense and John Elway and all of that stuff. So you saw those guys in the AFC. And then Pittsburgh. You saw Pittsburgh in the AFC as well. But so it's a different time. So I kind of jive with that. The one thing that's very interesting is outside of the little mention about Tom Brady and getting caught, cheating, is the whole cheating aspect itself. That should be the number one thing. In my opinion, that should be the number one thing. He doesn't even list that at all, and he's kind of fallen into this whole narrative of the media is that the Patriots can't do any wrong. They're this great team, and they've done all these things, and they've won all these Super Bowls and all these AFC championships and conference championships, this, that, and the other. But conveniently, when you talk about the New England Patriots, people forget to talk about, or they conveniently forget to talk about, the fact that they've got scandal upon scandal upon scandal involving cheating over the last 15 years, which is crazy to me. Yeah. And so, very interesting article, man. Maybe have a little bit to do with different eras. It may have something to do with fantasy football. And, they got some unlikable guys. Bill Belichick is an a-hole, jealousy and envy. But it should also have a lot to do, and it should be in this article more prominently, that the Patriots are some cheating bastards. Yeah, 404-382-0338. You can also email me at Doug@thedougshoreshow.com. Let me read some messages in the chat room. Oh, boy, look, conveniently, the biggest Patriots fan that listens to TDSS, Grego. Look who just stepped up in the room. Grego says in the chat room on Spreaker.com, just joining the show today, and I see the Patriots still got some people's butt hurt. Aww. No, Grego, as what I do around here, since no one else in media will do it, as I do around here, I just remind people. That's all I do. I'm a reminder. Yeah, about the cheating-ass Patriots. From Griff Throwback, that's true, Doug. In the 70s, we saw Washington, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Miami, San Diego, and the New York Jets. I remember the Jets very rarely. I always talk about I was a Chargers fan to a large degree because we had a guy from our hometown when I was a little boy that played for the San Diego Chargers. Every once in a while, like every blue moon, you'd see the San Diego Chargers. And once again, they became more prominent. You know how like on Thursday night, you always see Georgia Tech play on Thursday night? When Monday Night Football